Hey y'all. Today's objective is comparing scientific notation. So when you have values that are written in scientific notation, I'm going to show you how to compare them. So just a few points. First, you're going to look at the exponents. Well, I guess the first thing we should say is make sure they're in scientific notation. And the first number is between 1 and 10, and it's really in scientific notation. Then you're going to look at the exponents first, compare the exponents, then you'll compare the whole numbers. And if you want to find out how much larger something is, you're going to have to use division. So we've been practicing division. And if you have a question that says how much larger, you're going to use division. Alright, so copy these down. Problem number Alright, so I'll come back to that. Here's problem number 1. Compare using greater than, less than, or equal to. Sorry, my boards are out of order. First thing you do is you make sure it's written in scientific notation, and both of these are. Then you look at the exponents. I have an exponent of 4 and an exponent of 3. So my 4 is going to be bigger because that means I'm going to have a bigger number. If you're not sure, then you can look at it in standard form. So I'm just going to show you if you want to actually write it out. I'd move my decimal 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I would get 20,000. Over here I'd move my decimal 3 and I would get 3,000. So 20,000 is clearly larger, but my exponent was bigger, so I could have just seen that. Number 2. 1.1 times 10 to the negative 4 and 2.3 times 10 to the negative 3rd. When I'm comparing they're both in scientific notation, so I look at my exponents. This one is larger, so I think this one's bigger, so let me show you how to put it in standard form. Negative 4 means I move it 4 times, and this one means I move it 3. And when you're comparing those two decimals, this one is bigger. That one is larger than that number. So again, if your exponent is larger, that's going to be the larger number, as long as they're both in scientific notation. So now I'm going to come back to 3 and 4. Sorry about that. Number 3, they're both in scientific notation. I look at my exponents, and I have the same exponent. So if you have the same exponent, you look at the whole number of 7 and 7.1. So 7.1 is larger because this would be like $7.10 and this would be $7. So my answer is that one is larger. If your exponents are the same, you have to look at your whole numbers. Now number 4. Are they both written in scientific notation? If they're not written in scientific notation, you need to make sure it's written in scientific notation. So right here, that number is not between 1 and 10. So we've been practicing. 35 changed to 3.5, and since I got smaller, my exponent needs to get larger. So instead of negative 8, it's going to get larger to negative 7, because remember, negative 7 is bigger than negative 8. Now I have the same exponent, so I look at my whole numbers, 3.5 and 3.5, so this one is equal. So make sure your number's in scientific notation, because if you just looked at the exponent, you would think this one was bigger. Alright, so pause it, copy this down, make sure you get the whole word problem written down. The diameter of the Earth is 1.28 times 10 to the 4th kilometers. The diameter of Mars is that big. How much larger is Earth over Mars? So I told you at the beginning, if you want to find out how much larger, you have to use division. Earth is going to go on top. Your larger number is going to go on top. So 1.28 times 10 to the 4th. And that number goes on bottom. And we've been practicing this in class. You're going to divide 1.28 divided by 6.79, and I get 0.189, I'm rounding, times 10, you subtract, 4 minus 3 is 1. Now, that's how much bigger it is. Well, first of all, it's not in scientific notation. And second of all, it doesn't really help us being in scientific notation. So we need to write it in standard form. We're going to write it in standard form. So make a note. You need to change it to standard form. Since the exponent is 1, I'm going to go 1 to the right. So in standard form, this is 1.89, which is about 2. Oh, okay, it's about 2, which means that the Earth, is about 2 times larger than Mars. Earth is 2 times larger, so let me make sure we understand. I divided using my division rules. Then I changed it to standard form, and I got 1.89. So the Earth is 1.89 times larger, and 1.89 is almost 2. So the Earth is 1.89, almost 2 times larger than Mars. All right, so copy this down. The population of Raleigh is 4.2 times 10 to the 4th, and New York City is 8.3 times 10 to the 6th. How much larger is New York City? So it's no guess that New York City is larger than Raleigh. And that's about a little more than 8 million people. So 8 million people live in New York City. We're going to put New York City on top. And whenever you want to find out how much larger, you're going to divide. So we set up my division problem. I'm going to go to my calculator. 8.3 divided by 4.2 is 1.976. So 1.98 times 10 to the subtract times 10 to the 1. All right, so that's in scientific notation, but remember we want to go to standard form. So I'm going to move it 1 over because of my exponent, and I'm going to get 19.8, which is about 20. So New York City is 20 times larger. So that was quick, and hopefully you understand. You're comparing less than greater than, but if you have a problem asking for how much larger, you have to set up a division problem, and then you can figure out how much larger one thing is than another. And we'll practice this more in class.